Hello and welcome to the first of hopefully several videos dealing with paper 1 in the English Leaving Cert exam at ordinary level. And in these videos we're going to look at each of the questions that could come up in each of the sections and discuss how many marks are going for each one, what percentages that equates to, and then look at the questions themselves, see how you go about answering them, what's expected of you in your answers, and some tips and tricks on how to maybe do well and do better than maybe you have been doing. So in this first video, we're going to take a look, like I said, at paper 1. And let's look at, first of all, the time that you're given. You're given 2 hours and 50 minutes. And we'll break down what that means for each question in a moment. On the first page of the exam paper that you're getting into, it gives some instructions here in bullet points. It tells you about the two different sections that is in paper 1. Section 1 is comprehending. That means reading and understanding what you've just read and answering questions based on that. And then section 2 is the composing section, which is writing longer pieces of, essays, talks, personal essays, short stories, things like that. The paper contains 3 texts on a general theme, and in 2019, the theme was social media. So in your exam, it will be a different theme. We don't know what theme it will be. They pick the theme in the State Exams Commission each year, and it varies. And throughout the exam paper, that theme will be seen in all of the texts and in the questions. So it's nice when you get your exam paper in June to take a look at what the theme is and just kind of keep it in mind. It's not crucial or anything, but it's nice to have an idea as to what's the general theme of the paper. So this 2019 paper's theme was social media. So you can imagine the different questions that are posed when people talk about social media. Is it a good thing? Is it all positive? Are there any negative aspects to social media? What are they? And what are the positive aspects to social media? And what forms of writing might you be asked to write in if the theme of the paper is based around something that's digital? Do you think there's going to be some maybe podcasts that come up? Some online articles they might ask you to write? Things like that, So just having a quick glance at the theme and having a quick think about it is no harm. But not too long, because we have to keep moving on. Both sections of this paper, comprehending and composing, must be attempted. So you must attempt the 2 sections. But here's the important thing down here. You must do 2 questions. You must do a question A and you must do a question B. Yeah? But you must answer a question A from one text and a question B from a different text. Candidates must answer only one question A and only one question B. You must not do an A and a B from the same text. Now, if you do, you'll only get marks for one of them. And several people have lost out before in the past for doing that. And then in section 2, you must write on one of the compositions, one of the longer essays. Okay, so let's look at one of these texts. So this is section 1, and we see text 1. Okay, there's one text, and there's a long piece of writing. We'll come back to this in a moment. Let's just have a quick look through the paper in general. So this is text 1. It goes over 2 pages. And at the end of text 1, you see that there's a question A made up of 3 questions, the third of which is broken up into an A and a B. Now that's not always the case. They don't always break them up into an A and a B, but they have usually been doing that in the past. And then there's also a question B at the end of this text. And that repeats itself 3 times. So in text 2, a long piece of reading going over 2 pages. It has an image, indeed it has 2 images, and it's followed by a question A and a question B. And the same for text 3. An image there, a long piece of reading. I've gone too far there. And then it's followed by a question A and a question B. just like the other 3 texts. Now you need to answer on one of these question A's and one of these question B's, but they can't be from the same text. So I couldn't do this question A and this question B, because you must pick them from different texts. So I'm going to give you a little tip on this. Let's go up to my my own little writing up here near the top. A little bit messy, but it helps a little bit. Up here. Okay, there we go. I've just did a little drawing of what the exam paper layout of paper 1 is. So it's a little bit rough, but you get the idea. So like we talked about, there's 3 texts. There's a text 1, there's a text 2, and there's a text 3. And after each text, there's a question A and there's a question B. There's a question A and there's a question B. There's a question A and there's a question B. You must pick a question A to answer on and a question B to answer on. So let's say if I pick this question A on text 1, I could not pick this question B on text 1. I'd have to pick a different question B. Now here's the first tip of this particular video. It's always best, before you start reading these texts, because reading takes time and it eats into your overall time, the first thing you should do is actually look at your question B's. Look at your question B's when you get the exam paper and find one of the question B's that you like. And when you've found a question B that you like, you can safely assume that whatever text it is with, you're not going to read that first. You mightn't even need to read it at all. Because if you're doing this question B, you're not going to be doing this question A. So why bother read that text? Some people make the mistake of reading the 3 texts first and then looking at the questions, and that's a complete waste of time. You've got to be clever with your time in paper 1. So have a look at the question B's first and see which one suits you. Then eliminate that text to be read and have a look at the question A's and see which one of those suit you. So like I said, let's take a look at our paper again and see if we can put this into action. So let's look at text 1 from this paper. And I get the paper in front of me. This is my exam paper. I haven't read anything yet. I'm not even going to read this text. I'm going to go straight down to the question B and see what it is on text 1. Okay, this is the question B right here. And it's asking me for an article for a website. So that's a newspaper article. Okay, I make a quick mental note of that. Now I look at question B from text 2. And I've gone way too far. This computer is a little bit slow on me today, but bear with me. It'll catch up. Where are you gone? Oopsie daisy. Now comprehending. Yes, text 1. Ooh, I'm just too quick. This is another text. This is another text's question B, and it's looking for a post for your school or workplace blog. So far I have a newspaper article to write if I pick that one, or I've got a blog to write. Now maybe one of those you prefer more than the other. And then the other text that I kind of skipped over a bit too quickly was text 2. This computer is a little bit slow on me today now, so you have to bear with me. This one here. It's a letter to a newspaper editor. Some people like those. So I like those. I'm going to pick this question B. Okay, I'm going to pick that question B. Now it means that I am not going to then answer on this question A. I can't. I'm not allowed. I have to do 2 different ones. So this is out. So effectively this text 2, is out. Gone. There's no point in me reading it. So now I take a quick look at the question A's from those texts. Text 1 and text 3. And I see, is there any of those that I like? So this should be done in a matter of seconds because question A's are relatively the same. It says, based on your reading of the paragraphs 4 and 5, explain 3 steps Melanie has taken that helped her develop a healthy relationship with social media. That should be okay. Do you believe that they are fortunate or unfortunate to live in an age when social media is extremely popular? Yeah, I like that question. In your opinion, what message is conveyed by image 1? Let's have a quick look at image 1 to see, is this question going to be difficult or not? No, it's only a jokey little cartoon, so that should be doable. Yeah, and then the question part 3, part B, to what extent does image 2 accurately reflect the impact of mobile devices on your engagement with your friends? Ooh, all of them seem to be quite distracted. They're all looking at their phones. Nobody's looking at anybody else. They're all just looking at each other. This girl is down there doing God knows what. But in general, I think those questions are going to be doable. So I am going to read text 1. And I'm going to then answer question B from text 2. But I don't really need to read text 2, do I? Let's just have a quick look after that. Text 2. Question B. Will I need to read the text? Can I save myself a lot of time? Your local newspaper has published a letter condemning 15 to 30-year-olds as vain and selfish. The letter writer specifically refers to selfies as an example of vanity of people in this age group. Write a letter to the newspaper in which you respond to the views expressed in the original letter. I don't really need to read text 2. I can read it if I want to get inspiration, but if I feel quite passionately about this, I don't really need to read text 2. So all of a sudden, I've saved myself a lot of time. Because if you remember from the very start, my own little diagram up the top, if we can do this by picking our question B's first, we save time. We save a lot of time. So for this paper, I'm going to answer this question B on text 2. And I'm going to answer this question A on text 1. So I'm going to read text 1, I'm going to answer the question A's, and then I'm going to read question B. Now in general, the question A's, part I is worth 15 marks, part 2 is worth 15 marks, and the A and B of part 3 is worth 10 marks each. That's 12.5% overall for your overall English grade. That's a lot of percentages. That's the difference between a pass and a fail. The question B's are also worth 12.5%. That's a big chunk. And into the second section then, when you finish doing A and B, and we look at time in a second, you've got section 2, the composing and writing section, which is 100 marks, which is an overall grade of 25% of your overall English paper. That's a lot of marks. You get short stories, personal essays, articles, speech talks, or dialogues, or various other bits and bobs, and later videos will show you how to answer each of those questions. What about the timing and length? How long am I spending on each part of these questions? So in section 1, the question A's, you're looking to spend about 40 to 45 minutes, which is about 2.5 to 3 pages. Yeah, because you're using point, quote, explain, and we look at that when you watch the little video on answering question A's. In section 1, part B, it's also 40 to 45 minutes. Nice chunk of time to do a 1.5 to 2 page answer, a letter to the editor, or a diary entries, or a newspaper article. We shouldn't have a problem doing 1.5 to 2 pages. Have a look at the video on that to see how you might get that out. And then the section 2, the essay question, the one that's worth, remember, 100 marks, which is 25% of your overall English grade. You save this till the end. You leave this till the very end, because doing section A and B in section 1, it helps get the juices flowing. It helps get your creative juices flowing. It eases you into the exam. If you jump straight into section 2 to try and write the essay first, it's hard to write an English essay cold. This is your very first exam in the Leaving Cert. It's very difficult to do that. Now, if some of you like doing it that way, by all means do it that way, but it wouldn't be my thing to do. And of course, in later videos, we'll take a look at these things as well, particularly the ones that people love, the personal essays and the short stories. Okay, now that's just a brief explanation of the layout of paper 1. Take a look at the other tabs in the OneNote book to see how to answer specific questions, and also sample answers, and there's also some questions there for you to try. Try them, give them a go, see how you get on.